Hi, I'm Drew Buchanan, otherwise known as Chiron the Mage. With RC Minneapolis coming up, I wanted to document my testing and hopefully help people along the way. If you have any feedback for these videos, let me know. With that, let's do a quick deck tech. So this is the deck we're going to play today. Fairly fairly standard blue-white control deck list. Mostly borrowed from the Pro Tour blue-white deck list, played by Ely Cassis and others working with Ely. The key the key cards that make this deck work are Stock Up and Overlord of the Mistmores. This deck is a much more tap out oriented blue white control list. We obviously still have some amount of instance and counter magic, as is mandatory by wanting to interact with the format at large. However, we are trying to interact early, tap out for a sweeper, and then resolve a large game ending threat. Or use our tap out turn to stock up on an instant. A very common curve will be lockdown into Day of Judgment or Jace into a stock up, hold up a 2 mana interactive spell, and then eventually continue on with the game for a while. The one new card we're playing in this deck list is one Elspeth Stormslayer, and we have a second copy here in the sideboard. This card should be very powerful. I've played a few games with this offline already, and the ability for Elspeth to just be an army in a can, as well as also give your entire team flying for an entire turn cycle, is both very good at protecting you and also very good at closing out the game. The curve of Elspeth, make tokens into Overlord, hold up a 2 mana interactive spell, and then put counters on your squad is very difficult for most decks to break through without a sweeper of their own. But sweepers are just so poor into this deck on the balance that it will likely just end the game on the spot. Beyond that, we have the mandatory 3 Jace the Perfected Mind. You don't beat Domain without this card. It's unfortunately still required, and hopefully we just mill 30 and steal games against Domain that way. In the sideboard, not again the second Elspeth and the fourth Jace, just as additional threats to board in and ways to fight Domain, respectively. The fourth Beza, it's possible this could be in the main, but our deck is already so high on 4s and 5s that you had to make a cut somewhere. And normally, if you're boarding in a Beza, you're boarding out some number of your Jaces to lower your curve. Change the Equation is a card that we are just now starting to work with. This card counters basically everything. There's a version of this deck that plays 4 Change the Equations and multiple Flash Freezes in the main. We're not going that hard on fighting Mono Red. However, I think Change the Equation is one of the best cards against Mono Red. It's effectively the same thing as No More Lies, except it actually scales into the late game. Just being counterspell against Mono Red is very key here. Dissection Tools, a card I wasn't particularly high on, but flipping an Overlord to it is basically unbeatable, as well as suiting up an Overlord with it, similarly unbeatable. Cutzel's Flanker and Rest in Peace are the mandatory Omniscience Hate. The fourth lockdown for the red matchups, negates for Domain and the Mirror. Tidebinder mostly comes in against Kaito decks and other Jace decks. Tidebindering a Kaito activation is just such an obscene tempo blowout that I don't think most decks can really recover from. But yeah, let's hop into some games. So we're starting out in Bronze 2 of Ladder, which is not the best place to start. But unfortunately, Elspeth is particularly difficult to get on Magic Online right now, and I have not played a ton of Arena leading up to this, so we'll just have to see how it goes. I would love to play first Magic Arena. Thanks for asking. Yeah, this is basically the perfect hand, so we will keep. We have the curve of 2, 3, 4, although depending on what our opponent does, we may not even cast this on turn 2. So given this, I'll still play the Flood Farm Verge. It's possible this is a mirror, but if it's a mirror, we're not casting the lockdown on 3 anyway, and I want to save this until we know what we're looking for. So definitely don't want a Day of Judgment against Archive, Verge, Mill, Seachrome Coast. This should indicate that we are playing a mirror, so I will slam this Fountain Port. Their own Fountain Port. I'll make a fish. My own second Fountain Port. Probably don't want to expose that one right away if I can help it. There's a chance I sacrifice my token to the Fountain Port this turn. Yeah. I have basic planes, so I'll get an island. Yep, they demo field me. I'll probably just feed my fish to it. There's not much on 3 mana they can do that I'm afraid of. Getting 2 Fountain Port activations to their 1 is very good for me. So here, since I have 2 Overlords, I'm going to take this opportunity to slam one. I have no more lies protecting it. Of note, I should not have played the Fountain Port. Since I wasn't planning on using it to make a token this turn, I should have played my planes instead. I'll take this trade. We might see a Ride's End here. Horned Locked Whale. Yeah, I will stuff that. I will stuff that. Seeing a Lock Whale makes me think they might not be on Jace's. Deal. They can have 1 mana in their combat step, that's fine. I just want to convert this No More Lies while I can. So I have two different options. I can play Overlord, or I can stock up, hold up a Fountain Port activation. I think I want to just stock up and hold up the Fountain Port. Finding a Jace is really good. And I think I'm rolled up on lands, especially since I might be Fountain Porting for a treasure. So I'll take the Day of Judgment just in case. Yep. No map usage indicates that they have a counterspell, so I'm going to just make a treasure. Get lost, my Overlord is fine. Deploy this land. Let's make sure that my Fountain Port doesn't get activated. And then I will just be feeding these map tokens to my Fountain Port instead of using them to get additional damage on the insect tokens. Beza. Beza is fine. They're getting a card out of me no matter what, so I'll just make sure they don't get extra creatures. Ride's End's a good pickup. This fights over the Beza pretty well. Elspeth's Smite. It's good to know about. Probably never standing up in Anchorage, so I'll just get this in. But yeah, I'm feeling pretty safe here, so I will simply just no attacks. I have the Fountain Port. I think I have Inevitability. As long as I can keep hitting land drops, I think I have Inevitability. I would like another counterspell, but I don't think I need to be... Yeah, they have a good stock up turn. Alright, they found their third anchorage. I could try and deny them. I could try and deny them this explore, but I don't think that's worth it. They have 8 cards in their graveyard. I could just mill the whale, but I don't think there's any huge rush. So I have 10 lands. Double Rides and Fountain Port. I can sequence the tap land in. And we just have this Overlord ticking down. Deduce. That's a good one. Of note, Lagoon Breach is you don't control, so they can't use it to save their Beza from my Ride's End. Yep, that's fine. Map is fine. Drawing a guild gate. I'm going to just exile the Beza. I think I can let them keep the Restless Anchorage for a little while longer. Maybe they commit a spell in their main phase. Yeah, that's fine. Another Beza. Feed the map. We are starting to draw a lot of white cards. Ooh, that's a good blue card. They have 33 cards in library. I will take Jace and Jace. Then just gonna try and get them to tap mana on their own turn. We have this Overlord coming off suspend or impend. They are going to have to spend some amount of resources to deal with this Overlord. I will Lagoon Breach. I will attack into the face-up Lagoon Breach. I get tokens on the way through, even if they do put it on top. Sunfall. That's fine. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. I'm going to just make a treasure, I think. Don't really need more cards. So they have 2 creatures, 2 unknowns. I'm going to just send in 1 Jace. See how they feel about that. I'll 15 them. And they're through 1, 2. Just 2 no more lies and no 3 steps ahead. Send in the second one. That one resolved. Yep. Good tactical concession to not show me more of the deck. Alright, so against the mirror, Day of Judgment, not at its best. Temporary lockdown, largely blank. We'll probably cut the Ride's Ends, although depending on how many cards we actually want, we might bring 1 or 2 of those back in. The Get Lost are great. They answer the Planeswalkers and the creatures that will likely come in. Negate, good at forcing things through. Tidebinder is a good flash threat that also protects from Jace through a negate. Jace, obviously, for this matchup. Elspeth Stormslayer. While it can be a bit clunky, you need 7 mana to force it through. It can stabilize the board on its own. Beza also seems kind of reasonable. Cutzel's Flanker is something to help stabilize your draws early, even though the other modes aren't particularly useful. And then we get 1 of these cards. They showed us Whales. They have multiple whales. Didn't show us any Jaces. I think I want a Ride's End. They seem a little more creature dense than me. But the Day of Judgment isn't particularly good, so. Yep, exactly what we're looking for in the matchup. We have a surveil land to smooth our draws. We have one of the two fountain ports. Definitely don't want any more lands, so I'm willing to lead on the Meticulous Archive this turn. So they're going to deduce. Since I have these Jaces, I might Tidebind their clue. Yeah, if they eat their clue, I'll Tidebind it. This might be aggressive, but I kind of want them to spend mana on their main phase so I can sneak one of these Jaces in. Okay. I mean, if they're not going to spend mana, then that's fine. I'll just activate. I'll just play my Fountain Port. They missed their land drops, so if they have a Demolition Field, it'll come off the top. And now we're just going to hit the Fountain Port every turn. If they leave their card on top, I will probably cast a Jace to try and fight over the top of their library. They milled it. Okay. I'll just make a fish then. I was making a fish anyway. Tidebind my fish token. If you want to trade, that's fine. Here, I'll make a treasure. They're probably going to Tidebind this. 3 steps, sure. If they're spending a premium interactive spell to just get velocity, I think I'm fine with that. 1, 2, so 4 land drop. I could just slam a hard cast Overlord, but I think that's worse than holding up feed a token to the Fountain Port. These mirrors are all about Fountain Port activations. The number one thing you're trying to do is just activate your Fountain Port as many times as possible. This is where my aggressive use of my Tidebinder is going to come back and bite me. If I had a Tidebinder for this Demolition Field, I would be in a great spot. That being said, I'm still going to activate it. My opponent has more cards in hand. I want to actually work towards getting some more cards in hand as well. This is my stock up turn, so if they're going to respond to this, that's fine. It thins a land out of my deck, out of the pool of cards I could draw off the Fountain Port activation. And that is a very good draw for the next thing. Alright, I'll just attack for 2. and then I will stock up. No more lies. I will pay. Bit awkward that we didn't find a land, but we can take a stock up and a negate. This will hopefully find us another land. Plus we can play tempo with our Overlord. Beza. That is 3 modes. That is a 3-mode Beza. Destroy my Overlord. That's kind of unfortunate. And now I don't have interest in stocking up. I made my land drop. I could just blast them for 30. I could blast them for 15. I could blast them for 15, draw 3. I could blast... I think it's blast them for 15 and then play the other Jace next turn. And then we'll see what we hit. Negate Tidebinder, negate. That's 2 Tidebinders down. Okay. And not blocking, might as well attack. They have a 4-turn clock. I have a 4-turn clock, but I get the first swing. And if they spend mana on this, I think I'm fine with that. The one of Ride's End that I kept in, this will swing the race back in my favor. I'll just pass. Their arena mannerisms tell me that they don't really have anything, I don't think. Counter my Ride's End. I think that's worth my negate. Yeah. Yeah, just a pretty straightforward case of opponent missed land drops, got behind on Fountain Port activations, and was able to just win on most metrics. Alright, we got paired. Another Teferi. We lost the die roll. This hand is risky in the abstract. However, we have 3 draws to hit a 3rd land before we are upset about missing. 3 draws. 3 draws at 53. Or sorry, so we have 22 hits. We have 3 draws. So that's a little more. It's under 50. We'd have to miss like 3 slightly less than coin flips in a row. I'm gonna keep this hand, although I could humor mulliganing it too. The Jace being such a polarizing card, means we could potentially already be at a 6. This is the type of hand I would keep on 6, though. Looks like we're against Pixie, so I like the hand against Pixie, assuming they don't deploy a second creature. Second creature's kind of tough. Okay. Glad we have this Jace to pitch to the Hopeless Nightmare, and now I'm just hoping that we don't get exactly Kaito'd this turn. We are taking a ton of damage, though. Okay, tap land is really good for us. I'm going to not Ride's End. They don't have No More Lies showing, so I will just cast this lockdown. Another Anchorage, a Storm Chaser's Talent. If the last card in their hand is a Tatabe, we're in a rough spot. Meticulous Archive, that's a really good draw. Get Lost answers a Kaito. I'll keep this. And then next turn we're stocking up. If they're firing up the Anchorage, I like our spot. Yep. I'm going to just Ride's End this Anchorage. I know I have the demo field, but I don't want to shuffle away my Get Lost if I can help it. So we'll stock up, take Island and the Overlord. So the Overlord stabilizes the board. We're locked in on taking this island so we can hold up a 3 steps ahead. It might be that we're supposed to just take this No More Lies just to protect from exactly them missing their land drop plus Tatabe. So yeah, I'll take the No More Lies. And then if we hit an untapped land next turn, I will deploy the Overlord. That's fine with me. I'm going to pass. Let them get into combat. And now at this point, I'm just concerned with protecting my health total. Okay. So this one I will demo field. And I'm going to just do it now. Don't give them an opportunity to float mana. We're in this awkward spot where I have to defend my temporary lockdown. Them not having another basic is really good for me. So my second field will go after their Seachrome Coast. Okay, never mind. I will not send it after the Seachrome Coast. Fear of Isolation's a good hit. Yep. Optimistic Scavenger. I think my line next turn is going to be deploy Overlord holding up No More Lies, so I will 3 steps ahead this, especially since this represents a ton of damage. So we hit the untapped land, but I'm still just going to impend the Overlord. willing to double block here if necessary. Nowhere to run. They should mill this. If they cast Fear, I'll no moralize it. I think we're approaching the point where defending this lockdown is becoming a bit redundant. Yeah. Yep. And I will double block here. This might be a bit aggressive. I really do want to just slam this because it generates 3 pieces of material. But if I've been playing this whole game around defending this lockdown, so what I should do is I should stock up. Take Beza. Beza stabilizes my health total. And then another Overlord. And then I'll stabilize my health total, stabilize this, stabilize the board, and then next turn I can just start casting 7 mana Overlords. No targets for the Storm Chaser's talent yet. Destroy Beza, that's totally fine. That is a piece of that is a removal spell that can't go at my Overlords. The card in their hand might be Tatabe at this point. That might be a bit awkward, but okay. I have enough lands, and this doesn't do enough. In case they have a Tatabe, I will use this archive to defend the rest of my hand. Although based on the way they're passing priority, I think they had nothing. Sure. Okay, this buys back Go for the Throat. That's a good. That's good. I agree with Fire It Now. This does something in play, and then I'll just cast another 7 mana Overlord. The board is stable enough that I get to attack, and they're not quite dead on board, but they are probably in a hopeless situation if I get to untap. That is tough, I will admit. So here I'm just going to attack with both of my Overlords, make some tokens. I don't know if you get to trade opponent. And again, I do want to defend this lockdown. Because if they just attack with the Overlord, I can use the lockdown to clear the way for my Overlords to connect. So, the person I got this deck list from, Sean, he and I actually developed a very good sideboard plan, a very good consistent sideboard plan. No More Lies, not particularly good in the matchup. It's always trading down on mana. so it's very difficult to actually get it to connect on something you care about. That game was kind of an anomaly where they missed a bunch of land drops. We were able to fight over their creature lands with our removal spells to keep the No More Lies turned on into the late game. One Jace, not particularly good. Could even go down to one Jace. Having one as like a card draw thing you can draw to is really good. And then Ride's End isn't at its best. They generate a lot of incidental tokens. We didn't see a Kaito out of them, but keeping some number of Ride's End to respect Kaito is something you should be doing. It's also possible you go to 0 Jace, keep all of your Ride's Ends, but that's kind of a vibes thing. They didn't draw a Kaito, but they also didn't see much of their deck, so it's possible they just missed on Kaito. As for what we're bringing in, Lockdown, obviously very good. Beza, good at stabilizing the board, good at stabilizing your health total. Elspeth, Stormslayer, like we saw in that game, most of the game is fought in the sky. So Elspeth jumping your squad for an entire turn cycle, very good. Generates 2 chump blockers. She also is very difficult to remove once in play, as assuming you're not entirely behind on board. And then Tidebinder is a good way to fight the various activated and triggered abilities of their deck, specifically Kaito, like I talked about in the deck tech. If you stifle a Kaito ninjutsu, their creature's already picked up, but the Kaito's stuck in their hand, which is a huge tempo blowout. So this is a similar issue to the first hand we looked at, in that we are short a land to cast our spells. However, it is significantly worse this time because we have a colorless land. However, the fact that this is a duel, the fact that we have a removal spell for a Kaito, and we have a way to recover, makes me think we should keep this hand. In this matchup, I am much more interested in just keeping raw cards, because if you mull the 5 and then get triple hopeless nightmared, like what are you doing? Like you're not actually going to make headway doing that. So our opponent has the Grief Scam. 3 steps ahead, not particularly good for the same reason we don't like No More Lies. We kept 3 steps because it can clone our creatures more so than counter a spell. Day of Judgment, not for this time in the game. And our opponent has Grief Scam into Kaito. I'm going to Get Lost before blocks. Anything they would do to protect this would be better, would prevent them from Kaitoing. And now we're just hoping we hit a untapped white land. Magic is so easy sometimes. We are down on cards. We did give them a draw to with our Get Lost, but stock up is a very good way to catch up on raw resources. We played around it. Let's see. So we could try and Tidebind to this Kaito, but I think we need to hit our land drops more than fight over one Kaito. I'm going to take Seachrome Coast so we have a second blue source, and then Beza. I think we are just going to try and chain Bezas if we can. They're going to draw with Kaito, So we're going to be locked in on 2 modes of this Beza. We're going to be locked in on health and cards. They're probably going to play a land, which means we should lock in 3 modes. Deploying exactly 1 creature and no land is the best way to play around Beza for them. But they might have to invest their blue source, yeah. Okay. The treasure doesn't do anything this turn, but they are locked in. So, would I rather have the card or the treasure? Is the question I have to ask myself. I'm getting the health no matter what. I'm not getting the creature no matter what. So it's a question of, do I think the card is more valuable or the land? Or the treasure? I'm not using the treasure this turn, but if I Beza for treasure twice in a row, I get to Beza plus Tidebinder or Lockdown next turn, which I think is better. Kaito may have to stun the Beza. If it's stunning. If Kaito stuns the Beza, though, that's not a card draw that's happening. Sure. So it's going to push 5-ish damage. Okay. They played their land. Yeah, I think my plan is my plan here. I'm going to make sure I leave up the demo field in case that's a thing I want to be doing, but keep this one. I'm unfortunately not drawing a card, but I think that's fine. I'm going to tie bind this. I have no idea if this actually shuts off any of the words on Kaito, but keeping the Beza untapped is probably good for me. Yeah, getting the No More Lies out is also really relevant. So that's 10 damage. If they stand up the anchorage and swing, that's 12 damage. I go to 2. So this is an interesting combat to navigate. It's a pretty obvious Tatabe. Yep. That's really bad for me. So discard this one. I go to 12, and then this is 13 damage. So if I block here, I would go to 9. But then they have a talent coming. This sucks. I think I'm just priced into blocking because my turn has to be field their anchorage into lockdown. But yeah, we do see how these 3 steps ahead, these counter spells aren't particularly good. Oh, and they even have a no more lies too. I still think my plan is my plan. Unfortunately, just kind of have to close my eyes and pray. I have double white up still, so I get the island and then spend this lockdown. Them breaking this is probably the best possible outcome for me. Yeah. Them breaking the Hopeless Nightmare is really good for me because it keeps the nightmare out of the lockdown. Granted, they topped, so I'm probably just dead. Looks like a second Kaito was the card they kept. They get to send in with the Kaito and then pick up Kaito to Kaito. Or just a second to top it. Yeah. This game's really difficult. This matchup is really difficult, especially the games where you don't draw Overlord. I'm hesitant to bring the No More Lies back in, but maybe since we're on the play, it's a thing we can do. I'm not sure. Like I said, these 2 landers look rough. However, I am more interested in having quantity of cards over specific cards and quantity of lands. Not having turn 1 Hopeless Nightmare to contend with is really huge here. I will simply pass the turn. I'm going to Ride's End this. I might get my back broken by a Kieran, but I think getting this token out of play makes a Kaito much more difficult for them next turn. And that's worth a no more lies to them. So, untapped land? Nope. I'm going to just do this now. I get F6 value. And this is the risk of keeping a hand like this, but if they Hopeless Nightmared me twice or what have you, I would have been glad I kept this hand. They don't have black mana yet, but I have Tidebinder if they do have Kaito. And if they try to just stand up their anchorage and attack, I will just Tidebind the activation. I will Tidebind the activation as promised. Scavenger. So I'll put... I think this is enough to put under a lockdown. The issue is you don't want to put too much under a lockdown because then you get your back broken by a single Tatabe. And if this is what they're doing with their turn, so be it. I am ecstatic. Stock up. I'm not going to really have tokens this game, I don't think. I'm locked in on taking one of these Seachrome Coasts. Am I locked in on a Seachrome Coast? Yeah, I think so. They have 4 Tatabes versus 1 to 2 Destroy Evils, so I think I'm just going to take the Fountain Port, even though on paper maybe the lockdown is a better take. This is a really good turn for me if this is what happens. Yep, that's fine. I'm gonna get lost this. You can have a bunch of maps, that's fine. And then if they no more lies my get lost or negate my get lost, then I'll Tidebind the trigger. They might Tatabe. What does a Tatabe look like? This might be a Destroy Evil too, which would be pretty rough for me. Demo Field is a huge pickup. Gonna attack with the Tidebinder. And then I'm gonna Demo Field the Anchorage. I should have done this in combat, actually. This was really bad. Now they can no more lies my Overlord. But if they're no more lying my Overlord, then they aren't bouncing the Tatabe and getting a Kaito in play. So I think I'm actually okay with them fighting over this. Yeah. And then you're going to Tatabe a token, lockdown. Mockingbird gets to become a 2-1. Yeah. Yep. So this is the turn they get to get a Kaito into play. If they want the Kaito in play anyway. They might also just activate their talent. Yeah, activate talent, picking up Tatabe is probably what you have to do. Probably map onto Scavenger if I had to guess. Yep. Drawing an ETB tap land. I'm going to just trade with their real pieces of material. They play their tap land. I can only do one. The only way I can do two things is if I lock down and cast Tidebinder. And I think that's actually fine. They'll have to deploy a permanent in order to bounce the lockdown, unless they want to spend their whole turn just bouncing like Lockdown Overlord, which I would be fine with. If they bounce my lockdown, I think I'm going to Tidebind. That's just a Mockingbird. Nurturing Pixie. Pick up the Mockingbird. Sure. So Mockingbird, Tatabe, one unknown. They have 5 mana. They can bounce my 2 big permanents. I'm going to just put them in check here, I think. Elspeth Storm Slayer. I'm going to just attack first. See how they want to deal with this. Of note, it's a good thing I didn't put the Mockingbird that copied my insect token onto this lockdown, because if that were the case, then they could bounce my lockdown in response to this Elspeth activation. So this will probably be bounce Pixie plus lockdown. Yep, that's totally fine with me. They go to 2. So, no matter which card I cast, I'll get got by No More Lies. Between Overlord and Elspeth, I get got by No More Lies regardless. Overlord plays around Spell Pierce. I think I'm going to just Elspeth. They are thinking, so they probably have a No More Lies. They're probably just reading Elspeth. They don't have a No More Lies. Alright, I'll just make 2 creatures. And now they're just kind of in an awkward checkmate of they have to develop to not be dead to the Elspeth, but then if they develop, they're also in a bad spot to this lockdown. 6 mana to pick up the Tatabe. Yeah. 6 mana to pick up and cast the Tatabe when all of my creatures become lethal with the Elspeth activation. Pretty difficult. So. Alright. Harrison Mage. I'm on the draw. So in the last round, we kept a lot of 2-landers. We don't keep 1-landers in this house. This hand is better. I will put back Jace. Boros. This could be a lot of different things. Although, no play on 2. This might be like a Naya Seek the Beast type of deal. Frontline Rush. Make 2 Goblins. Okay, Boros Goblins. I'm going to just pass. I'll hold up the counterspell for this turn. Maybe I can get the heavy. That's... It's not good for me. I'll be taking 8. I think I kind of just have to let this go, though. Yep. It's just more crap that gets swept in the... Okay. So I'm taking 10 down to 7. Down to 5. Then I draw another Cacophony Scamp. Sure. Okay. Kind of just have to cross my fingers. But this pair of Bezas should help us stabilize Krenko. I think we have to be fine with Krenko. They can stand up their Sanctuary and then activate Krenko. Sure. Unfortunately, we don't have another sweeper, so we kind of have to just pass. lot of goblins. That is a lot of goblins. Fortunately, these 6 don't have haste. Alright, I'm going to make a Beza. You always want to try and keep your clone because you can feed your clone to the fountain port. And then these 2 have to get blocked, and then we'll block one of these just to make sure that the Krenko doesn't go too bananas. This Frontline Rush card is also a pump spell. Torching is fine. Plains not at its best here, but it will be part of the plan next turn. I should not die this turn, which is good. Never mind, I'm fucking dead. Oh god, that's so bad for me. Is there a meaningful difference between 10 and 5? 10, or between 5 and 7? Probably not. I'm still in sweeper or bust territory. And this doesn't give them a card draw, but I want them to actively cast their spell if they cast it, so. Alright, let's loot. Dead. Yep. Alright, that one was rough. That one was rough. So this is not a Jace matchup in the slightest. Change the equation's pretty good. Lockdown is good. I want to find room for this Beza and for these Tide Binders. Maybe this Elspeth. Although I think the Elspeth might be a bit slow. I think I have to just actually answer the board, and then I can win with pretty much anything. One Overlord gets a bit clunky when we're boarding in this Beza still. Can trim a 3 steps, since they're probably a Cavern deck, and 2, the cloning isn't as good as it could be. And then trim a stock up. Actually, I'll trim multiple stock ups, I think. No. I'll split them like this. I will keep this. Mobilize 1. So having this Day of Judgment is huge. We did not have access to this card last game. And this card at basically any point that they didn't have a Horde Master in play would have killed them. Menace, start your engines, sure. I think this is the only turn we can actually stock up in this game, so I'm going to take this opportunity. Change the equation, huge. Overlord also seems reasonable. Cacophony Scamp, that's fine. Yep. So let's take this turn to Beza. I think this is going to make... I think they're going to make 2 Goblins in their end step with the instant. Yeah. Frontline Rush. So they're going to throw this here. So this one dies anyway, so let's answer as many Goblins as we can. It won't have double strike this turn. Sure. So here we're just kind of hoping to hit a untapped land, which we did not. Their clock is kind of anemic at the moment, and I want them to commit a little bit more before I spend this sweeper. So I'm going to just pass. Demo field is a good way to spend our mana. Just the burnout. Yep. Yep. Stadium headliner is fine. And then I'll do this. This thins a land out of our deck, but I'm largely just hoping that we can rip one anyway, because we shuffle in 2 untapped lands. Untapped land. Tapped land. So this will be... Yeah, I think unfortunately I have to take down this change this turn. Yeah. I think between the Tidebinder and the Tidebinder and the change, I can fight over this. They probably have a disenchant of some sort. Yep. So Tidebinder fights over the Krenko. Yeah. Okay. I think we're in the clear at this point. I'll just make a treasure. This will get them to activate the Krenko, and then I can Ride's End it on my turn. Or not. Okay. I'll just pass. I can discard this Get Lost. If they don't Tidebind, front line rush. Think I'm okay with that. Pass again. And then jump this Tidebinder in. Yep. Now we have to do that again on the draw. Dissection tools should probably be in. You can stop screaming at your monitor now. Dissection tools pairs with Overlords pretty well. No More Lies loses a bit of efficacy on the draw. Probably cut one of the Tidebinders. Like, the Tidebinder lines up really well against Krenko, but it doesn't really line up against anything else. I think I'm going to keep this hand. It's a bit slow, but opponent took a mulligan, and we have a bunch of different interactive spells. That's a good hit. This is one of the matchups you would want Elspeth's Smite for, but I think we are okay without it. Okay. Hoping this Horde Master gets in, but if not, I will just Rides End the Bastronaut. Three steps ahead, a little awkward, but we can develop the second blue source and have a spell this turn. I'll just Rides End this. All we need is time. Scamp is fine. Change the Equation's a good hit for later, but I don't think I want that right now. This is a death trigger. This is... yeah, I probably do have to counter that, unfortunately. I don't think I can take 6. And then the Horde Master gets to get in this time, but that's fine. That's a lot of damage. That's 5 damage. They might throw this. I would throw this if I was them. Yeah, that's 2 draws. Okay, they missed. Alright. If you're just going to keep feeding me Rides Ends, that's fine. I'll just shoot this now. And then this takes the most damage off the table. This contests the Scamp, but I think stocking up plus Get Lost for velocity is a better way to handle this. Change the Equation and a Sweeper. Yeah, I'll give them a map. I have the full Cryptic command next turn, make a token if they do nothing. At this point, it's all over but the crying. And I'll just make a treasure. Counter and draw. Discard Day of Judgment. And then this should be the nail in the coffin. This actually attacks for damage. Destroy Evil, yep. Just looking for help. Howl Squad Heavy is a good hit, but I'll just develop my archive. Keep that on top because it's hard castable. White. Lockdown. Yep. And then change the equation there into Hardcast Overlord, which is like a 2-turn clock. Yeah, 10 and 12. Yeah, game one was a little rough. We never drew a sweeper, never drew an answer to a resolved Krenko, but getting all the garbage out of our deck helped a lot. All right, we are on the draw. This No More Lies is currently off, but we have 2 removal spells, and against anything we would want the No More Lies against, the Demolition Field should be live. I'm going to keep this. Mystic Monastery. Roiling Dragonstorm. Okay, so we're playing against a Dragon's Brew. Yep, that's probably a good discard. I'm going to just play out this Fountain Port. They probably don't have Field of Ruins. Intercept. Your attack gains Mobilize 2 is the text on this. Alright, I'll demo Field. Sun Pearl Kieran is fine. You can have the Dragonstorm. Yep. They're going to have a ton of velocity, but we'll just out-card them, I think. This deck probably has a basic island, so there's no point in hitting the monastery to try and take them off of blue. Bitter is fine. This deck we probably want to treat similar to Pixie in that we probably don't want to put too much under a lockdown if we can help it. So I'll demo field their real land. Take action. Definitely need a second white source here. Seachrome Coast right on time as it normally is. They're through 3 rides ends. I'm going to just start working on ticking down this Overlord, I think. they're gonna get some value out of these like Torch the Tower style cards that they haven't had a chance to convert on my early plays. Basically, just hoping they don't slam a 5 here, but Ride's End Get Lost should cover this. That is a problem. Holy crap. Yeah. All right. Hoping for an untap land here. Now I just get to lock them down. This card is so wild. As this enters, choose Jeskai or Teamer. Sure. Teamer. Sure. That's... I'll just pop the Siege. They get one Explorer this way. But they would have gotten that Explorer pre or post combat. They might not have big cards for me to worry about, but it's still probably better to have the mana up than not. They'll need to deploy a creature. No, there's no card they can have that outside of the 2 mana make 2 Goblins spell that our last opponent had that gets them to Killer Beza. That's really frustrating. I have multiple fountain ports, so like that should be fine. But that is a really good synergy of just getting to draw an extra card every turn off of your mobilize dinguses that aren't actually doing anything otherwise. So probably throwing this at a fish. Or no, they can throw this at Beza, then throw this at Beza. I should have responded to these triggers with Ride's End. That protects my Beza. But if they are expending these resources fighting over Beza like this, I think that's fine. It's a good thing I'm getting these reps in, learning how new keywords work. So we're throwing this at Beza. So Ride's Ending a token saves the Beza. Because if they throw this... Yeah, this should save Beza no matter what. Because this will check on resolution. So Ride's Ending anything saves the Beza. So maybe I should have hit the headliner. And then I'm willing to take 1 damage to keep a fish to feed to the fountain port. Okay. Pretty commanding position here. I'll just cast this. It taps 3 of their lands. I still get to feed a fish to the port. Making them tap 3 of their lands prevents a lot of the worst things that could happen here. Attack. Found the 4th Ride's End. Yep, that's fine. So this is 8 mana. If they have Day of Judgment in their token aggressive deck, you got me, but all 4 Voice of Victory. Okay. That's 6 damage if you swing with everything. I'll just do nothing. Okay. Lockdown, Beza. Change the equation is pretty reasonable. Counters basically everything in their deck that we saw. Jace, not for this matchup. Can probably cut a Ride's End. I'm hesitant to bring in the Tidebinders because it's so difficult to get their triggered abilities with the Grand Abolisher creature in play, voice of what have you. Similar reason I cut a Ride's End. I kind of just want all of the possible big cards. So maybe I just don't want these changes. So like we cut the Jaces. Yeah. Probably do something like this. Just cut the Jaces, bring in the Elspeth, the Beza, and the Lockdown. That's one of the benefits to playing a deck like this is that you are largely pre-boarded for a matchup like this. Meticulous Archive doing Urza's work as it does. Also, opponents mulliganing to 5. No plays on 1. We're looking for lands. Yeah. Can't really... I want to keep this Overlord, but I think I have to push it. Yep. Voice of Victory making me tap my own mana. Fountain Port, not great for me there. Okay. That's fine. That adds pressure to the board. Like if you were to feed the token to the Fountain Port, I guess. Seachrome Coast stock up is a good follow-up here. I already have a Fountain Port, but I do want a 5th untapped land. And Beza. It would be, I would curve like Beza into Elspeth into Overlord, so I'll take the Beza. Opponent is struggling. Let's just really apply the pressure. I personally would not do this. I would have just fed the token to the fountain port and actually gotten the card draw. The +1/+1 counter doesn't actually matter here, I don't think. Hitting 6th on tapped land is very good here. Totally fine with this just being gain health. In the future, wait until the Beza fully resolves before you destroy evil. This gave me creatures that I should not have otherwise gotten. Sun Pearl pickup. Yep, that's fine. So the question is, are we plussing this Elspeth or are we zeroing? I think we're zeroing. And then if we untap with this Elspeth, I don't think we can lose. It has the funny word on it twice. Opponent's deck is sweet, though. So they can throw 4 damage at this Elspeth. Sure. I don't plan on casting spells during your turn ever again, opponent. Okay. So I'll get lost this since that has the widest mobilize. Impend this. And stats. Yeah, I think we are very close to just killing our opponent. Authority of the consoles. You may have all the health you'd like, opponent. I'll just stock up here. I think we've largely reached the point where my actions don't actually matter. So this is 1824 power. So they have to block with 2 of their Kirans. So it's like block here, take 18, go to 2. good at 4. Yeah, I was looking at my health total. This can kill the Elspeth, but then the 3 steps ahead counters their only spell. And then they're just dead on board. Elspeth has done her job. She has made... She's generated like 20 power on her own. That's totally fine. Yep. I have a lockdown covered if they somehow have lockdown. Sure. Voice of Victory's fine. Yep. I think opponent's deck is sweet. I think we are just the bigger version of their deck, though, and you always want to be just slightly bigger in these types of mid-range mirrors. But 4-0. Good showing today. Alright, I played with my OBS settings a little bit. Hopefully the microphone echo is gone, and hopefully the video quality is a little better. This hand is greedy. It's a little greedy even for me, but I have a lot of things to do with my multitude of lands. And I do have a Surveil land on the draw. I'm going to keep this. This might be greedy. Alright, I think I can develop an Anchorage here. Anchorage, go. Okay, no threat. So this is probably... Basic Swamp. This is probably the Excruciator deck. Having a Jace is really good. I don't want to stock up on the draw. I'm going to just look for a... I'm going to look for a counterspell. Like that counterspell. They missed a land drop. Stocking up. I don't really want to counter that, but maybe I'm supposed to. I don't know. It's tough. They definitely found their land drop, yeah. They kept their card. If they kept their card, maybe I'm supposed to shred them. But I think I'd rather just keep my mana open. And in this matchup, I don't want to give them a ton of targets for their, like, mostly dead removal spells. The only cards that really matter are Excruciator itself and then Jace. So I just want to make sure I have my mana under me as best I can. We're a couple turns out from the big showdown. Having 2 counterspells here is a good start for me. Oil Deep Gear Hulk. Don't like that. And I'm not going to counter draw. They could have the Quench card, and this also gives me second 3 steps ahead if I need it. That's a good discard to my end step. They're not going to have a creature land that I care about. That is a lot of lands. I'm going to take the 2 untapped ones. And then attack with my fishy. Of note, this stock up is putting 3 bad cards on the bottom of my deck makes like the post Excruciator game difficult, but I think that's just a world we have to live in. Yeah, like, they're spending resources on my fish. And missing land drops, that's really good for me. They spend a removal spell on a fish, I'll make another fish. Never standing up this Restless Anchorage. Not fighting that stock up. Maybe I'm supposed to. Maze Mine Tome. Yeah, I don't care about that. They now have a creature land that I care about, so I'll fire this. Take action, go find a plains. And I don't necessarily have a land, but I think I should just make a fish. This represents 4 health, so I'll need to be applying more pressure. And I already have a good thing to discard. It does let them draw a card off of it, but they were already getting a scry out of it anyway, and this forces them to take an action on their own turn. Never putting this Jace into play until it kills them if I can help it. They're collecting evidence. So they're going to take my 3 steps ahead. This one I will counter draw. And then if they fight back, I will... Day of Judgment can peace out. I have these Raidens doing nothing, and I don't think damage is the axis this game's going to be fought on, so I'll feed a fish to the port, try and hit my land drop. I have plenty of garbage to discard if this doesn't work out. That is a good land to hit. And that's a good card to discard. Four, five, six, seven, eight, nine. I'm a mana short of making 2 treasures per turn cycle, but make a treasure, make a fish is good. So this is... Ugh. Yuck. I'm going to see if I can hit my last 3 steps ahead. I did not. Alright. I will be losing my Jace. Yep. I will normalize another cover up. Make a treasure. Get lost this. The maps don't actually matter. And then this draws a card. Main deck Tidebinder. Yeah, I don't think this is doing anything else. Maybe they're just like blue-black big, I guess. Go for the throat. I'm actually going to convert this into map tokens. I still get to cycle this way. And it's not like the Get Lost is doing anything anyway. Yeah, now I just have a handful of white cards, and the white cards just don't do anything. Yep. I am deceased. Alright, my own Jace is good. My own Tidebinders are good. Cutzel's Flanker as a flash threat is good. Negate is good. Beza and Elspeth are options. Technically have options on Change the Equation, but probably not. These lockdowns are ass. This Day of Judgment does nothing. These Ride's Ends are not great. That gets me my Elspeth. Gets me my Beza. Don't think I want Dissection Tools. Dissection Tools can entomb a Jace, which is a problem if they Devious Cover up me. So I guess I just keep a Ride's End. But yeah, I don't know. It's tough. Tough matchup. Yep. You don't get to mulligan to be better against duress, unfortunately. Now I need to find a counterspell before we get to turn 5. That's really good for me. That's a threat, and this is the land with text on it. Their stock up is probably better than mine, I think, but Fountain Port has words on it. Not too interested in ramming Elspeth into a negate. So I actually do kind of want them to take my Jaces at this point, as weird as that sounds. So I'm going to just attack with the fish. Then play Island. Make a fish. I have plenty of lands. Don't think I need to make a treasure. Having a negate is huge. I'll attack with my fish. And then I have Fountain Port plus negate, which I think is better than deploying Beza. Looting with 3 steps is fine. I'll just make a fish. Double counterspell is very good. Now I don't think I'm doing anything except fountain porting for the rest of the game until these counterspells are gone. Two, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. If I just counter, I can still activate my fountain port, but I kind of want to. Yeah, if I activate the fountain port, then the Elspeth is a 2-turn clock. Yeah, so I'll just counter this. I lose like a bit of value if I have to negate this turn. But this also plays around Spell Pierce, so I think I'm okay with this. I have a lot of different options. I think I'm just Elspeth and attacking for 6. Is that better? No. I'll just attack for 3. I should have overlorded is what I should have done. I want them to Tidebinder here. They did not. They did pass priority pretty quickly on that, though, so I do think I get to make a fish. Negate. Negate is good. I'm gonna just attack. Nowhere to run. That is a-okay with me. Anoint with Affliction. Again, that's fine with me. Alright, I will impend this. Yeah, if they're spending their point and clicks on these, I don't think I have to worry about Devious Cover-Up too much. Yeah. Now they're just dead to Elspeth with Negate backup. Okay. They kind of just flooded out and died. I think my deck is my deck is my deck. Negate 3 steps. This is what I want. I'd like to have a 4th land, but don't get what you want immediately. And most draws at this stage, and this stage of the game are pretty good for me. Hit our 4th land. Shows up actually on time instead of ha ha he he on time. Play our duel. Play this just so that they don't get the ability to stand this up into our do-nothing turn. But the key here, I think, is just make them come to you. Stock up. Yeah, that's fine. Double Restless Reef is a pain in the ass. But yeah, I think I'm just... Okay. Fountain Port, once again, forgiving all sins. Duress me. What if instead we didn't? Then this is probably a Gear Hulk, which I will once again ask if we could not instead. Stock up is huge. I'm gonna go look for a real card. That's a real card. That's a real card. That and that. Opponent missed their land drop, so their hand is all spells. They hit Jace Fountain Port. Jesus. That's so bad for me. Alright, I'm gonna I'm going to Elspeth with no more lies available. I'm going to make some fellas. I might get punished for not being able to weave this anchorage in. Yeah, that's fine. Elspeth can go to 2. That's not a problem. Gonna shrink one of my men, or just mill me, sure. I want to hold up both of my utility lands. Nope, I'm not allowed to do that, so I will tap the Fountain Port. Impend this. Wah. I'll just make some more fellas. I'm going to send both of these at Jace. They might defend their Jace if I only send one. And they are Turbo Dobbs if I get to untap with this Elspeth and my board in play. And I think they'll have a hard time covering up and killing Elspeth through a No More Lies. Yeah, don't care about that one. Yeah. Alright. Pretty solid showing. So, yeah, don't think I'm gonna make any changes as of yet. I think every card has earned its place. I think every card has I think every card so far has been pretty good. I think my plans have been pretty good, but we will. How do I do the UI? Yeah, this is the UI. This is the UI. Yeah, I think this will be what I'm going to devote a lot of time to testing for the RC. I might do some other things, mostly to be the bad guy for other people I'm testing with, but I think my deck is my deck here, and maybe there might be some small little tweaks here and there. This Kutzel's flanker has historically been kind of schmedium. That could be a third change to the equation possibly, but it's, for the most part, this list seems pretty solid. So, yeah. YouTube thing, like and subscribe, etc. If you like what's happening here, obviously, please keep going. I'm going to be recording these for VOD review anyway, so I'll throw them up. But if you have suggestions on how to make it better, let me know. See you.